All right, here we are. Jay Creates. What are we going to create today? I got a picture in my head. Don't really know how I'm going to go about it. Well, I kind of know how. Never done it before. So we're going to do this together. I have this 48-inch by 1-inch poplar dowel. And I got a couple pieces of poplar board here at 3/4 inch. My stepfather, when he at work, I think I may have mentioned it before, they build a lot of ginormous frames, mirror frames, things you see in like, most recently I think they built something for the casino here in Boston. But anyway, they use a lot of poplar. And he brings home some scraps for me. And, well, he brings home some scraps to burn as well. But I always go through the pile and pick out some good stuff. So these pieces are, it's the same piece, because the grain and the dark poplar match up there. But I think I'm going to run these through the jointer, and we'll glue these together, and then we'll cut out some sort of circle, and then we'll use a dowel, and we'll cut up maybe like 3 or 4 dowels and use them for legs, and we'll just make like a round plant stand from the poplar. And in my house, we're a big fan of natural wood, natural color. So maybe we'll just give it a good sanding and some shellac afterwards. Or maybe we'll find like a light stain or light paint. Not really sure yet. Like I said, I don't really have a plan for this. I did have it in my head. I'm like, oh, maybe I can, this dowel rod's been here for, a few months now, because I had this plan a while ago. But let's get on it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 boards, joint the edges so we get a nice good glue up, glue them together, and then we'll think about how to cut that circle. Probably use a jigsaw. I don't know. Let's get started. I got to get the jointer out, which is buried over there, so I'll be right back. Alright, so these boards that we're using today, they're already like surface 3 size, S3S board. So we have one edge here that's rough cut from the factory, and then the top, the bottom, and the other edge are all smoothed out and straight. Same thing on this board. You got your rough cut side and then your 3 surface sides. So I'm going to run, even though it's already flat and surfaced, I'm going to run these through the planer together. And that's going to help ensure that I have a nice tight seam that, once it's glued up and dried up, you can barely notice that there's 2 boards together. First I'm going to do is take a little test piece here. I haven't used the joiner in a while, so I just want to see how deep it's cutting and all that. Looks like it's very small here. Alright, we don't have to do like a major test. I want to make sure the blade and all that is good. This hasn't been used in a while. I don't want something to kick back at me. But like I said, I'm gonna do these 2 together. We're not gonna use the full width of this for the plant stand. I haven't really determined what size it's gonna be. Maybe like a, I don't know, a 10-inch, maybe a 10-inch circle. Maybe I have to stick to like maybe 8 or 9 inches. This board, if we put these 2 boards together, it's only 10 3/4 inches, and I don't think I would get a 10-inch circle out of that. Again, I've never had to glue boards together and make a circle, so it's going to be a first in this video. But speaking of first, the first thing we got to do is run this through the joiner. So let's do that, and then we'll prepare for glue up. And if you want to know anything about this Grizzly jointer and how much I paid for it, I'll put a link in the corner here for the video. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but it was pretty cheap for a jointer. Check it out. Alright, while we're getting this set up, something new for me today is I bought this silicone mat a while back just for this purpose, and I really haven't used it at all. So I put the silicone mat down, and do your glue ups on top of that, the glue is not going to stick to the silicone, so it's just really for easy cleanup afterwards. I just made a video about when I purchased this and a bunch of other things, and yeah, I'll put that linked up here or down below. So let's get this glued up. I'm going to start with my 2 clamps here. These are just aluminum bar clamps, and then we'll add some others onto it. We're going to put some glue on both edges. Using my fancy glue spreader here, spread it around. All right, let's get these 2 squeezed together. I am going to flush up this end, these 2 ends together, and we're going to cut it off on this side anyway. So I'm making sure that my boards are flush on the end, and I'm holding the top down so that it doesn't pop up. I want to keep them nice and flat and level. I'm going to add some extra clamps. You want to make sure you got good pressure all over the board as much as you can. One here. All right, that looks good. We got 2, 4, 6, 7 clamps on here. Gonna let this sit for about 30-40 minutes, and then we'll come back and see what we got. I don't know, it's been 30-45 minutes since I put the glue on and clamped these things together. So let's take these clamps off and see what kind of glue up we're working with. There it is. Got some good squeeze out on the top and the bottom. So we got to clean up this glue, and then we're going to square this board off. Oh no, we're making a circle. So to make the circle, I found this old tub over here. It used to be an ice cream tub. So this is like an 8.5-inch circle. And I might be able to get 2 out of this, but let's start with 1 and make sure we can do the 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this glue. So for the circle, I'm going to take this ice cream lid and we're going to trace that out. Right in front of me. This, I believe, is 8.5 inches. Oop. Yeah, it's just about 8.5. And we'll just take a pencil and trace around it. Now what would be nice is to have a bandsaw to help me cut this out. But I don't have one of those, so we're going to use a jigsaw. We're going to cut the bulk of it off, and then we'll tighten up the circle with the I'll have to get out the belt sander or just use the orbital sander or something. Alright, here's a bit of a different angle for you guys. I guess first thing I'll do is I'll clip the corners, take off the excess, and then we'll try to take the circle off as close as possible, leaving as much as this as I can, because I might be able to fit 1 more and make a secondary stand. Yeah, there should be plenty to do 2 here. So let's operate under the assumption that we're going to make it 2 stands out of this. So we'll try not to damage this half of the wood. So I don't know if I mentioned this already in the video, but this is like uncharted territory for me. I have not made a circle before. Definitely not this way. So we're doing it together. I'm not a professional jigsawer. So again, we're going to say leave some tips and tricks down below for me. I've only used them a few times, but I'm just going to kind of go at an angle here and just knock this stuff off. Get as close to the circle as I can. to make sure I don't hit my fancy Ryobi table here. Now with the excess on this side taken off, let's try to go straight across and cut this circle right out. Alright, so I didn't go straight across. I kind of went with the circle a little bit. So we still have the pencil circle here. So we're going to trim this up, and then I'm going to get the sander out, and we'll refine this circle down to what it should be. So I'm just using the handheld belt sander, and I'm just rounding this off. So I have my line here still. I'm just getting as close to the line as possible and tightening up that circle. It is taking a while because, you know, I left a little excess on there. And this really isn't the proper way to do it. So I just have this clamped down to the desk. I turn it on, leave it on, and then it's like I'm driving a car. I just keep turning it and turning it and turning it, making sure not to cross the marked line here. And then we'll finish it off later by hand sanding all the way around to make sure it's nice and round and doesn't have any flat edges or anything. So I'm just going to continue doing that. And I'll probably do the other one as well, because I am working on two now. I was able to get that other piece cut out. So this is how we're going to do it. Follow along. We'll show a little bit of it. And then we'll come back and probably tomorrow or another day and do the next few steps. That looks pretty good. I got barely a little bit of the pencil mark all the way around. So I'm as close as I want to be with this sander. So the rest of it, I'm gonna finish it by hand. I'm just gonna go around it and round it and round it by hand, and then I'm gonna sand the top to get the pencil mark off, and then we'll get working on that one too. So this might be a long video. Stick around. It's gonna be worth it in the end. I hope so, anyway. So we have our circles done. There's probably better ways to do the circle. You could get like a circle jig and use a router. You can do it the way I did it. Cut it out with a jigsaw and then use a belt sander. You can use a tabletop or a bench belt sander. You can use a bandsaw. There's all sorts of ways you can do it. So the next step is to figure out where we're going to drill our holes. And I'm not going to go into all the specifics on how to do it. I got a compass, a protractor, another compass. You do some calculations. You divide this into three things. And then you don't want to go straight in with the legs. You want them at an angle. So any weight that gets put on, it presses it out. So you have to drill your holes at whatever angle you want to drill it at. Usually, from what I read, stuff like this is 10 to 15 degree angle. So I did 10. So what I did, so figure out which one's going to be your top and your bottom. So you take the template, put it on the bottom of your project, get it lined up as close as you can to your circle. I didn't cut it all the way perfectly, so this side hangs off a little bit, but if you move it over, as long as my top and bottom feel good. Then you can either tape this template right onto your board and then drill right through the template, but why do that? I have a punch here, and the template already has exactly where you need to drill marked out on it. So I just use the punch, and I punch those holes so I know where to drill over on the drill press. And I've set my drill press to 10 degrees, and I have a sacrificial board on top, which we're going to drill into. So let's go over and drill these three holes at a 10-degree angle. Since I've already hit these with the punch, I got little indents on where the three holes are going to go. I'm going to line that up First, I'm going to plug it in. Get a little light on for us. So I'm going to line that little indent up with the tip of the... So we're using 1-inch Forstner bit. So I'm going to line that up with the 1-inch bit. Just put a little pressure on it. So there's hole number 1. We're going to do that 2 more times. There's our 3 holes. Let's go back over to the table. All right, so now we have our 3 holes. We got to figure out the legs. So it all depends on really how tall you want this to be. I'm aiming for about a 10-inch height. Now that we kind of know, we got our holes drilled, right? We got the 3 10-degree holes. And we'll just come over to this. I want my little plant stand tabletop here to be about 10 and a half inches tall. Right now we're looking at 11 because I cut my dowels at 11 and a half inches because you want to put the dowels in, get it where you want it, and then flush cut them to the top of your stool, the top of your plant stand. So I took this 10 and a half inch tall scrap piece of wood here, and I went all the way around this board, and it is flush to the top of the 10 and a half. So I know my tabletop is 10 and a half inches. And I went ahead and numbered 1, 2, 3 on top of the dowels with a corresponding 1, 2, 3 on top of the bench here, the stool. And then I took the pencil and I just kind of scribed right on the dowel where it meets the top. So when we take these dowels out to put some glue in, we're going to put some glue in the hole, around the edges of the hole, and on the end of the dowel. We're going to put the dowels back in, let the glue set, and then we're going to flush cut them. So let's get on that. We're just going to put some glue right here. I'm not going to go crazy because I want to spread it around. Some glue in the hole. And I'm going to put some glue on the end of the dowel. I'm just going to kind of go around here. And then I'm going to stick this back through the hole. Maybe. Try to do it at the angle. Whew. I don't know if the glue is getting it stuck in there or what. I guess we'll take these guys out. I've never done this before, so we're learning together here. So, it's proven to be a little bit more difficult than I thought it was to get these dowels inset with glue. I mean, I can put them in, no problem, but getting them to where they need to be and then getting glue on the dowel or in the hole, it's a little bit more challenging. So I think I got it down. I got the dowel in there. I set it to where it needed to be for whatever height you want to make this thing. I'm aiming for like 10 and a half, and I'll give or take, 1/8 of an inch or more. The top I labeled 1, 2, 3, and the dowels are labeled 1, 2, 3. So when the dowel is in and where I want it to be, I took a pencil and I marked underneath and above. So I take that out. So now I'll put glue in this section all the way around the dowel and then get it back in to where the line meets the bottom or the top until I see the line. And then I'll use this to flush it up to make sure it's all the same all the way around. That's the goal. All right, so let's give it. I did this one. It seemed to work out pretty well. I'm going to let this dry at least for half an hour or more. It's already been a few minutes. And then I'm going to flush cut these. This is kind of like my practice one. I thought this would be a quick project. You know, I had this, like I said before, I just had this picture in my head of what I wanted to do. Getting there, I didn't know it was going to be quite the task. And maybe it's not for more experienced woodworkers, but I didn't really do any research on this. I just kind of had this picture and said, I want to do that. And here we are. So this is number 2. Here goes nothing. Actually, it's a little high. Back it out a little bit. That's pretty darn close. That's always going to be. So there's one. Oh, let's do that 2 more times. Maybe we'll speed it up a little bit. I won't jibba jab all the way through. That's going to be it. Now, let's see. 10 and about 5/8. 10 and 5/8. That's pretty good. I thought this would be a little bit easier. But anyway, it's there. It's done. We'll let these dry for a while. And they're pretty darn close to being exactly the same. You're about like a 1/8 of an inch difference. So it's gonna have to do, right? All right. So it's been a while, and the glue is pretty well set. So next couple of steps is we gotta flush cut the tops here, because we made the dowels come up through, and then we're just going to flush cut them and then sand the top. So I'm not that great with a flush cut saw. I know I've used a flush cut saw in the past, and I've scuffed up the wood. So this is why I'm putting tape on, to help reduce the chance of me scuffing up the top at all, or much. So I'm going to put the tape on. I'm just going to do all 3. And then we'll start cutting the nubs off. I kind of already did this one. Worked out pretty well. There's just a little bit left on the top, which is fine because I didn't want to dig in and scuff up the wood. So now we got to go through and sand this all nice and flush all the way around. So this is my flush cut saw. Kerry, I don't know, Kerye. I'll put a link in the description below to this. It's got a side for softwood, side for hardwood. This is a soft hardwood, so I'm gonna go soft. Just gonna put it flat here and just get stuck. I'm already pulling the tape up. I'm gonna put some tape on this part. There's one. Speed it up, do the other 2, and we'll come back. And that's how you do that. Well, that's how I do it anyway. Alright, I'm going to take all this tape off. I'm going to sand the tops of these. I'm not going to make you watch me do all the sanding. Maybe I'll put in a little clip of me sanding right here. And then we'll come back. I got this all nice and flush. I hit it with 120, 180, and then I hand sanded with the 220. Same thing on this one. And I wanted to see what it would look like if I put a round over on it. So I took the router and just went around and put a small round over on it. I think it looks pretty good. So anyway, I know this video was probably all over the place. It felt like I was all over the place, that's for sure. But anyway, here we have our two little plant stands. You know, you don't want to put anything super heavy on them. You don't want to sit on them. You don't want to stand on them. It's just poplar, and I got two boards glued together, and then dowel rod legs. You could probably put about, I don't know, 30 to 40 pounds of plant on here. No little kids or anything like that, unless you want them to break it and fall off. I don't really know. As far as finish them however you want. I think I might end up putting a light stain on it, but I don't really have anything at the moment. So we're just going to finish this video without it. And by the time I edit the video, I'll have some nice pictures and I'll be putting them up here as I go or at the end of the video. So anyway, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think about this project. If you have any tips or tricks for me how to do things a little bit better or a little bit quicker and easier, hit that like button, subscribe button. Make sure you come back and see me again. Thank you.